Hey, welcome into Unemployed with Mike Schaefer. It is a Nebraska Ball Tuesday, and we have a special guest today. Normally, it's just been media members talking about their experience covering the team or, whatever else we get into here on this podcast. Today, we are going and getting someone actually involved in this operation. Pat Norris, the Nebraska equipment manager for basketball. He's been doing it for multiple decades now. Multiple
Yeah,
different
that's
coaches.
scary.
Pat,
Yeah. Hey, Mike,
welcome
how are
in.
you? Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're doing well. We were talking just before we started recording here about how I'm taking the 40-degree weather with the rain here, and you're in the sunshine of California, and
Yeah, there's
uh,
some clouds, but we'll put up with that out here.
a couple
Yeah.
of them, just hanging out there. So yeah, this is a business trip for basketball, and they did this. The Oregon Washington version of this last year went 2-0. Got the win. At the front of it here against USC. And I was asking you a little bit beforehand. I mean, these extended trips, like, is there extra work or less work for you in these sort of situations?
I don't want to say less work, but
Yeah.
um, when the Big Ten announced that we were expanding again and heading out to the West Coast, the equipment managers within the Big Ten, we had a big Zoom, and we just said there's going to be extra work on these trips, and anybody, if you just be open to helping everybody out. So USC and UCLA, they've been really good. They've done some laundry for us, and allowed us to have access to getting stuff done without going to like coin operated laundry and things
Yeah.
like that.
So I think one of the things that just kind of I wanted to get across here in this episode today, besides just kind of getting into some stories about what it's like being on the bench as Nebraska's gone on this terrific run here, is just sort of what your operation is like, how things are kind of handled for your side of it, and everything that kind of goes into being an equipment manager, and then how much has sort of changed in the 2 decades that you've been involved with this. I mean, you go back the 22 years, that takes you to the
2004.
the end of Barry Collier. So
Yeah.
you've been with Collier, Sadler, Miles, and now Fred Hoiberg. And so that's a lot of different coaches, a lot of different personalities, a lot of different players in that stretch. But just in kind of however you want to take this, how much has this job changed, and how much have you had to sort of adapt with it based on whichever coaching staff you're working with?
You know, it hasn't really changed within the coaching staff. Just the job itself has changed with more Adidas product, being more involved in ordering everything, having access. When I first started, we didn't have access to like an ordering site. We did everything in October, had a sheet of paper. This is what we want. And now I've got an ordering site, and almost daily we're looking at stuff and getting more product. And, you know, it's it's a lot more involved.
Yeah. Yeah, that seems like that would be the case. So, like, obviously you think of an equipment manager, you think of in football, you have all the different things going on. In basketball, there's a lot less equipment. But I am kind of curious, like, as it relates to something like shoes, how is that process done with you and Adidas with these players? Like, do they just get to look at sort of a catalog and then determine what they want to try? Like, what
Now,
is sort of the process for these guys working and picking out the shoes that they're ultimately going to wear?
Adidas has their shoes for the year that are um, like for next year. I've already ordered several pairs that I know that I want to have to start the season. And then throughout the year, more colorways, more styles will come out. We'll get those. I don't really allow guys. I mean, guys aren't really looking at, oh, I want this one, I want this one. They just
Hmm.
they get what Adidas has, and then um, whatever they really find themselves liking, I'll start ordering more of those for the guys throughout the year.
Yeah. Like, on average, how many pairs of shoes will a player go through in like a normal run of the season? Like where we're at right now. Let's take Frager for example. How many different pairs of shoes will a guy like that, need to go through in a given season?
I would say 10, around 10. I mean, they're not wearing them to the point that
Sure.
they're worn down. I mean, he has worn some to the point that they're worn down, and we've gotten him out of those. But there's just so many options, and I make sure that they can have a pick of everything. And so, I mean, they'll get 10 to 12 pairs, and I mean, they'll probably get 4 to 5 of those worn down to where they shouldn't wear those anymore.
Do you ever have to do like shoe checks to make sure that there's tread left on those tires?
I've done shoe checks. I don't know if you remember when Sam blew out of a shoe on court. The day before that happened, I told him you shouldn't wear those shoes anymore. And
yeah,
he went out one more game in them, and it didn't end well for him.
Is there like an element of this where guys are just relatively superstitious? They have their like pairs of shoes that they feel good about, and then you've kind of got to be the bad guy of like, look, I know you played well in these shoes, but we need you to move on to another pair, because I imagine Adidas doesn't want these shoes blowing out on television.
Yeah. We want to protect our partnership with Adidas. We don't want anything bad to happen with their shoes out there. So yes, I do some shoe checks, make sure guys are wearing stuff that still have mileage left on them. I wouldn't say there's a whole lot of superstition in shoes. A couple guys here or there, but guys are usually open to getting into something new.
Absolutely. So the other thing, I mean, shoes are obviously the biggest one, or the one you think about maybe the most with basketball. But the other thing that you see over the years, are you the guy that sort of makes decisions as it relates to Nebraska's jerseys and the sort of combinations that they have per season? Is that like a communal sort of decision? Is that a university Adidas decision?
You mean what's the design, or when we're wearing what we're wearing?
Kind of more so like how many options you actually have to sort of go through, because I assume have a couple alternates in addition to the standard home and away and all of that stuff.
Yeah, our standard will be a home jersey, a road jersey, and then we'll always have at least one alternate. So we'll rotate 3 jerseys. We'll get new ones every 2 years. And then, we try to throw in, a throwback or Adidas. Didn't do it this year, but the Black History Month uniforms, I think, will come back, and that'll be another option. I like having 4 to 5 options for a uniform every year.
Do you have a favorite look with the jerseys? Like, do you have a favorite combination? Do you have, because I know some people really love the look of the black jersey, and then you have some people who just want the traditional, they want their white when they're at home, or they want their red when they're on the road. Is there anything, because obviously you work with all of these, or you've seen a bunch of them. I mean, is there anything that particularly stands out when you think about it?
I've always liked the cream jerseys, so I find myself putting the cream jerseys out a little more at home than just the regular home whites.
Yeah. So, like, as it relates to that, are you then are you making that decision, or do the players come to you and like, hey, we want to do this, or any of that?
No, Luca Virgilio, our ops guy, he and I will talk before the season starts and kind of work out a roadmap for what we want to wear each game, and then that usually doesn't hold true. We change things up. Somebody will tell us hey, we're going to wear dark at home. You guys need to bring something light. So that'll always kind of mix up what we want to do on the back end of that.
Right. So as we get closer to the NCAA tournament here, and places like Adidas and all the other suppliers, they tend to have their own designs for stuff like that. So have you, like, how soon do you get sent what that's going to look like? Or, have you already seen kind of those jerseys or anything like that at this point in time?
Well, there's no postseason jersey this year. They've got the warm-up tops that they do. They've got a postseason court shoe, which I have. I don't. So Steph Curry's a free agent right now. He was wearing them, I don't know, a month ago or so. So you might see some of our guys in them too.
Interesting. Okay. Well, it's an interesting tip there. And then the other thing I hear this a lot from people, and I know I've actually talked with you about this, prior to today's show. How like how does the process get going where you were certainly a part of this when they started doing the Herbie with the basketball, and it was like before it was ever available to be purchased anywhere, and then that led to a bunch of counterfeit ones. I have one in my office here that I could grab and model for people if I wanted to. That like all of that stuff starts happening. uh, how involved are you in sort of that design element, or how does that process kind of get started? Because the players start wearing these things as warm-ups, and then everybody wants them and they're
Yeah.
not available, and that probably creates some level of intrigue by your friends, and everybody are like, hey, you got an extra one of these, you got anything laying around, like how do I
it
get my hands on this?
it creates some frustration, but I mean Herbie is now out on in
Everywhere.
retail, so that's not an issue anymore. But throwback logos like that kind of became popular 10 years ago. Like people started wanting those, and we wanted to bring it back and start getting it on things, for the team because the team liked it. So we started we'd get approval to start putting it on shirts that were, a practice piece or a walk around piece or whatever. Tried not to get it on court where people, would see it and want it, but social media people see that on the guys all over the place. So I'm glad that came back and we were able to work that back in. But,
Yeah. Do you have like a favorite like warm up or anything like that that the guys have worn over the years? It just really sort of stands out to you or anything? I mean, I'm sure the fact that you've had so many years into this and there's different warm up looks in the same season and everything else, it might all just run together. But is there
yeah,
any one or two that kind of stands out for you?
warm up wise, we've had so many. I know
Yeah.
I can't think of what we had. I really liked. They sent they sent a warm up. There was a zip up short sleeve to wear this year, and we were wearing them a little bit with the throwback early on, and then kind of went away from it. But I really liked this. It was a throwback to like a late '70s look, and I liked it. It
Yeah.
had the script Nebraska on the back.
I mean,
You
you're
might.
telling me. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna. You might see something similar to that coming
Very
in
soon.
future years.
Okay, excellent. You were telling me one time that, and I was mentioning to you that on my message board at that time, people really wanted those polos the coaches were wearing, and I think you were wearing in Hawaii with
Oh,
the
yeah.
the all of that. Like, uh, how much random custom stuff do you have of just Nebraska
Well,
at your house?
on trips like that, we've always uh, purchased polos or something, shorts to go for coaches to coach in, something different. And every team goes and gets some sort of floral shirt whenever they're in a tropical location. I mean, that's just something you can't always put at retail. I found a floral shirt, I put Herbie on it, looked great for the coaches, but it's not like an item Adidas is gonna make
Yeah,
make a whole lot available for reading. I'm definitely not going to put a Nebraska logo on it because it's just a floral golf shirt that I chose for the coaches.
yeah. Well, again, anything that you can put the Nebraska N on or a Herbie on that looks slightly unique is immediately of interest to the people that
Yes.
are watching at home. There's no doubt about that. Let's kind of dive into what this season's been like for you. Just up close and personal. You're around this team, whether it's at the shoot arounds or at the games or all of it. You're around. And so when did you kind of get the indication that this was going to be a potentially, I didn't want to say special season. Let's just say like you felt good about where this was headed. Was it really early on, or
Yeah,
was it,
it was. We had a red white scrimmage in the summer, and I think Rink hit 5 threes in a row. And I looked at somebody, I said, this team can win some games. So and from that point, that was probably late July. And
Yeah, and so then that's before they'd even had BYU come in, and then you have
yeah,
BYU in October, and it's like, oh, that's kind of interesting. I feel like for most people, it was in that stretch where you get to see Nebraska wax Creighton at home, and then it's still when you go through the schedule, Pat, like you see it, Nebraska beats Wisconsin by 30 in December, and then turns around, goes on the road to a place that's difficult to play at State Farm Arena out there in Champaign, and they beat Illinois. Like I think that was for most people this is not just like they might be a bubble team. Like this team is legit.
yeah,
That stretch of games stands out to me, especially of when it felt like things really started to okay, now if they they'll win these games up until Michigan State, then that Michigan State game is going to be really big, and then it was okay that you got to get through Ohio State and Indiana, and then that Michigan game is going to be really big. What's kind of the journey sort of been like with this group of guys? Like they had that 20-game win streak, you're around it. How were they sort of handling all of this?
um, they were having fun with it. I mean, it's a good group of guys. Like they've got goals, and obviously, losing a few along the way didn't hurt any of their goals. But they were having fun with that streak, and they're fun. They're fun to be around. Easy to root for.
It's from the outside looking in, it seems like they're a pretty laid back bunch, considering how competitive they are when the game actually
Mm-hmm.
starts. Is that sort of the vibe that you've gotten from this group that they don't kind of like the head coach himself, they don't let themselves get a little too high or a little too low after anything that they've done?
Yeah, like coach ends every post game with, "Are anybody satisfied?" And they aren't. So, gonna keep working. Business as usual.
Do you watch the cinematic recaps?
I do. Sam and his team. They do a great job. They're a lot of fun.
Are you ever like when you're involved in all of this, and whether it's something that happens on the court or I'm sure you're in there in the locker room, are you ever like sitting there like, oh, they're definitely going to use this?
I'm usually thinking the things they're going to cut out, but no, yeah, it's fun to see what happens and then what they turn it into.
Yeah, I don't think people, when we talked about Coach Hoiberg being even keeled, I don't think people were aware of how hot he can run until that Minnesota halftime speech, where it was sort of like, okay, that's the Fred Hoiberg I know from the golf course, the opportunity I had to play with him. That guy is in there, and that was a particularly. And then this one against USC here recently, on Saturday, where it's just kind of like, what you guys are capable of, so go do it. And that's. I have to imagine they've had a few of these this year where they've been trailing and then they turn around and absolutely just destroy the opponent in the second half.
There's no sense of worry. I mean, these coaches, they know how to get them going, and these players know what to do. So, I mean, you're in a situation where you're down 5, it's not that big of a deal. Just go play your game.
Yeah. Do you, as you've kind of experienced this through multiple eras, and you got started in 2004, and the sport is in a very different place right now in 2026 than certainly it was in 2004. How has kind of like, and what differences have you seen from just either your job or just players themselves in just sort of this transfer portal era where you might only get to spend, for example, like just using them from last year, Braxton Mia was here for a year, but then you'll get a guy like Sam Hoiberg who's been around for 5. Like it's got to be a little bit different than those times where there's always been a lot of player movement, but you just don't have those guys that are there as long.
Yeah. I will say, yeah, you don't, obviously with the short amount of time, you don't get as close to those guys that only stay 9 months or whatever it is. Andrew Morgan was in the same boat, but he's come back. We've seen him several times this year, and it's good to catch up with him. And but like this is Sam's 5th year, and we talk a lot about what they've done, what he's done to help get this program, from where it was to where it is now.
Yeah. Do you like early in the year when Nebraska's having, the immediate success, and there was a lot of talk about just sort of the connectivity and how these guys seem to be able to fit really well on and off the court? Was that something that you mentioned? You obviously rink played well in that red-white scrimmage, and you could see it on the court. Was that something you could sort of tell with this group early on, like there was a good culture there? Because I know, and it's not like you need to name names or anything. I think everybody could probably guess which teams. You've been around some teams where guys just don't like each other, and it's very visible on the court. I have to imagine it's even more visible away from the court. This group on the court, it seems like it's a pretty, close-knit group. Is that how the vibes were pretty much all off season leading into the year?
Yeah. They've done a good job the last few years of really doing team activities outside of the gym, and I think guys really get close doing things like that. And it's not hard with this group. It's a good group. They're tight. They've got their goals. They know what they want to accomplish. And
who's like if you take us inside things a little bit, who's funnier than we might guess? Like who's got like maybe a larger personality off the court than you might see on the court?
Well, I can't say BK because everybody knows BK's funny and has a large personality. I don't know. Rink's pretty funny.
It seems like it'd be in an understated
dry humor.
Yeah. No. I know you're a comedy kind of guy. I know you're a big Seinfeld guy, you possess a lot of Seinfeld knowledge. So I'm going to ask you this sort of Seinfeld related question.
Okay.
In the time of which you have been at Nebraska, who would you say has been the closest to being George Costanza as a chucker out on the court?
Oh, you told me I don't have to name names. So.
Maybe on this one. Look, you're comparing him to a chucker. That's okay.
Chucker.
Doesn't have to be anybody current either. So,
let's say Barry's my second year. Barry's last year. Mike Smith. We'll say Mike Smith was a pretty big chucker.
Just getting that thing out there as soon as he's catching it.
Yep.
That's great. That's great. So tell me about the socks. When did you? So the thing people might know about you is that you post every game. You let people know what socks you have going on for the matchup. When did this start? Why did this become sort of a thing for you?
I can't even tell you when it started or why it started. I think I had some fun socks, and I thought I'd just take a picture and put them out there, and then just kind of kept doing it, and kind of started growing my Twitter following because of that, and then some behind the scenes stuff with basketball, and now it's just something. Now I'm sock shopping a lot. So,
do you? Are you reusing socks in the same season? Do you feel pressure to have different socks for every game?
I have in the past. I haven't reused socks this year. So
okay, is that part of their success?
I have a lot of socks. So
yeah, at some point, like you probably have to make a decision. Is it necessary to have this many socks for one person?
I have considered a repeat appearance for a sock. I haven't made that decision yet.
That's amazing. Do you what compels you to buy certain socks to then have for this sort of thing here?
If I can relate it to something like fun with the season or the team or life, what's going on in life, I don't know. I just look for something that I can relate to other things going on.
Yeah. What can you give us a preview of what to expect for today, or are we going to hold that one close to the vest before tip time?
It's kind of got a California theme to it.
Okay.
Kind of. So yeah.
That makes sense. Do you get comments amongst players or guys that you work with about Are they guessing ever what you're going to have? Has that
They
become a
won't
thing?
guess. They'll just ask, "What are you wearing today?" So
They're just direct with it.
yeah.
They just want to know. They just want to know. Okay, so you have been involved on 2 different tournament teams. This is going to be a third. What's that atmosphere kind of like, leading up to, obviously the games haven't gone how anybody wanted in 2014 in San Antonio, and then of course in 2024 in Memphis. But I remember both the build for the 2014, being down there in San Antonio, and then I couldn't be there for Memphis. There just being a ton of excitement and everything. But what's that sort of experience like, because it's rare around here at Nebraska, and you've gotten to be a part of 2 of them now, and you've got a third on the way.
The fans make it what it is. And 2 years ago in Memphis, that was one of the coolest environments I've been in. Leaving the hotel with 500 fans in the lobby, all lined up all the way out to the bus, and then being in the locker room right before we're about to come out, and we could hear the crowd, the Husker power in the locker room going back and forth. That was cool. So it's the fans. I'm really hoping wherever we are, we can get that number of even more fans and create that atmosphere again, because it's really cool.
I feel like wherever they end up playing, there's going to be a large contingent of Nebraska fans that are going to just go to be there to support the team, for all of that stuff. But also just like it's such a rare thing. It's like if you're going to do it, you just you want to you literally be a part of history. You'll be at the game where it potentially it happens. So with that being said, do you invest a lot of your own mental energy in following the bracketology stuff and the projections of where things are going to be, or
I'd say I'm like everybody else. I'll scroll through X or Twitter, whatever we want to call it. But yeah, I'll look at it on a weekly basis for sure.
Like everybody else, you're like, this is a 4? How are these having a 4? What is Lenardi doing? How are they a 4?
Yeah, I kind of went at somebody on Twitter last year and was told, let's not do that anymore. So I just read. I don't get it.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. So you got that game obviously coming up, and the environment that'll bring. But I guess we'll kind of close out with this. Where have been sort of your favorite Big Ten environments? Like, where are the fun road games for you? Places that if a fan's listening to this, and this year they're going to go where Nebraska plays in the tournament game, but in the future they want to start hitting some of these Big Ten venues. Where would you recommend people go to check out some of these away games?
Mackey's really cool. And I know
everyone says Mackey first. Hoiberg said Mackey first. Kugler the other day was talking about Mackey.
Just the way it's a dome, it's metal, the sound, it's the loudest place in the conference. And
wow,
I've been to Kansas too, and it's really, I mean, it's 1A and 1B, Kansas or Mackey and Fog Allen. But back to the Big Ten, I like Breslin. I think the fans are right up on top of you, and it's loud. And Indiana gets loud, but it's never been full when we play there. I don't know if that's us or a statement on them. But yeah, I'd like to see Assembly Hall full someday when we're playing there. Yeah.
Do you want to go?
Iowa gets loud. Iowa was loudest I ever heard it a couple weeks ago.
On earlier this year.
Yeah.
Is that because they were all yelling at Price Sanford for most of the game?
Yeah, they were right in my ear behind me, so maybe that's why it was a little bit louder.
Yeah, I would imagine. Do you want to go the other way with it? Do you have a?
Well, I don't want to talk badly about other teams, but there's some environments that are like
sleepy.
Yeah, very sleepy. Got to bring your own energy.
Do you think that kind of affects, like, these guys well enough? Like, if they go somewhere and they play in an arena in Pinnacle Bank Arena, where I think, it's usually a pretty good environment. There's times, obviously, where it can be sleepy in Pinnacle Bank Arena too, but usually a conference game, it's going to be a pretty good crowd, and especially these last couple of years, a great crowd. Do you think that kind of can affect things? You get the 11 a.m. tip, in one of these places where it's going to be half full because the team isn't doing much of anything or whatever.
No,
I
definitely think having to bring, your own emotion into it instead of just feeding off of what's around you, that affects your play on the road.
All right. So one of the things that we do here on this podcast, and specifically with the Nebraska Tuesday episodes, is we look at the Joe Lunardi projection. She usually comes out on Tuesday. He's got a new one that's up today, and we do score predictions on it. So are you ready to give a score for Nebraska? I got to find it here. Where do they go? All right. It's in Oklahoma City. First, we'll start there. How do you feel about Oklahoma City as a potential location for this?
I love it.
That, I think, would be – you want the most people, the loudest noise, and the most raucous pro-Nebraska environment.
It's an easy drive. I think we'll get a lot of fans down there.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, so they have UC Irvine, which – UC Irvine wasn't the first team that Hoiberg played, right? Or was that UC Riverside?
That was, yeah.
Well,
I don't know. It's running together.
There's a lot of UC schools.
It was
definitely a UC team, and it did not go. We don't have to talk any further about that. But so UC Irvine, Nebraska to 3, UC Irvine the 14. In the same region, you get North Carolina, New Mexico, and Indiana as a play-in game. North Carolina the 6. Nebraska could see New Mexico again, who they caught in that Hall of Fame Classic in Kansas City. But all right, Pat, what would your score prediction be for a Nebraska UC Irvine game in Oklahoma City?
Oh, let's say 87-64.
87-64. People would love that. I'm right there with you. I keep going back to this. I think the number is going to be like 81. So I'll go 81-62. I think it'd be a nice, comfortable win for Nebraska. They get their first tournament win. They do it amongst the throngs of people that make the trip down to Oklahoma City. And then they turn around and, we'll see if it'd be North Carolina, New Mexico, what that looks like on the Saturday. You'll get to experience the second game of the NCAA tournament for the first time.
That's the plan, Mike.
That's the plan. All right. Hey, Pat, I appreciate you making this happen here on the road out in California. How are you feeling about tonight?
Feeling pretty good. We'll see what the guys are doing at shoot around and go from there.
All right. We'll let you get to shoot around. Thanks so much for joining here today on Unemployed with Mike Schaefer. And, pretty cool opportunity and to be able to get Pat on here for this podcast. So, all right, everybody. Thank you for
Thanks, Mike.
Yep. Thanks, Pat. Thanks for checking out today's show and joining us here on Unemployed with Mike Schaefer. We will be back on Wednesday with an episode with Josh Peterson. We'll dive into the college football world. Of course, we'll talk about this very late start against Nebraska, UCLA here and how that all went and everything else. So we'll be back on Wednesday at noon, and I will catch you then. Thanks. Bye.